Hey everyone, so I hope you're doing well today. Today's lesson is going to be a continuation of the lesson we did yesterday, which, as a review, what we talked about yesterday is we talked about poetry and we really focused on analyzing the form of the poetry. So, like what kinds of words the poets used, what types of sentences and phrases and words and stuff like that. And we looked at it and asked, so why did they write it like that? What message were they trying to convey? The two poems we looked at were by Guthrie, and today we are going to be shifting gears a little bit, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to look at a piece of writing and analyze it and look at why was it written this way, what sort of message does it convey, what form does it take, except right now we are going to be looking at songs. And the song we are going to listen to and read, I'll have the lyrics for you to read while you listen, is also by the same person as the poems yesterday, Guthrie. And at the end, we'll look a little bit at who he was and why he's important and why we've looked at a couple of his songs. Before we get into that, though, I'd like you to take out the graphic organizers that we made together yesterday and look at what it was that we noticed about the poems we read, just so you can remind yourself. So take a moment to do that, please. Okay, so before we, now that you've looked at your graphic organizers from yesterday and you've reminded yourself of what it is we learned then, we are going to get into today's lesson. Before we do that, though, we're going to take a look at what our learning target is, which is the same as yesterday's, since the two lessons are connected, is I will be able to analyze information presented in different formats. So while we look at the song we're listening to today, as you read the lyrics and listen to it, I want you to think about how is this different than the poems we read yesterday, and how is it different than the nonfiction writing we looked at before, and why might it be written in the way that it is? I'd also like to remind you of our learning targets for the unit, which is I can use credible sources to support my research. I can use technology to write collaboratively. I can gather relevant info from a variety of sources. And I can conduct a research project about social justice. So, we're going to look at the song here, which is Pretty Boy Floyd by Guthrie. And I'm going to put this presentation up on the Canvas site, so you can click these links to get to the lyrics, so you can read them with me while we listen to the song together. So here we go.
If you'll gather round me, children, a story I will tell. Pretty boy Floyd, an outlaw, Oklahoma knew him well. It was in the town of Shawnee. It was Saturday afternoon. His wife beside him in his wagon, as into town they rode. There a deputy sheriff approached him in a manner rather rude, using vulgar words of language, and his wife she overheard. Pretty boy grabbed the log chain and the deputy grabbed his gun, and in the fight that followed he laid that deputy down. There's a many a starving farmers, the same old story told, how this outlaw paid their mortgage and saved their little homes. Others tell you of a stranger that come to beg a meal, and underneath his napkin left $1,000 bill. It was in Oklahoma City. It was on a Christmas day. There come a whole carload of groceries with a letter that did say, well, you say that I'm an outlaw, you say that I'm a thief. Here's a Christmas dinner for the families on relief. Now as through this world I ramble, I see lots of funny men. Some will rob you with a 6-gun, some with a fountain pen. But as through your life you travel, and as through your life you roam, you will never see an outlaw drive a family from their home.
Okay, all right. So I want you to just pause the video now, and I want you to just take out the graphic organizer. You should have a copy of the same one that we've used the last 2 lessons, and just write down in there what you noticed about the song, what stood out to you. And so just pause the video for a moment and do that, and when you're done, we can continue. Okay, so now that you have completed your organizer, I just want to go over the song with you guys and talk about a few things that I noticed real quick and maybe help you understand the song a little better. So one thing you might have noticed is that the way that Woody sings is a little funny maybe compared to some people you've heard sing before, or he might have a little bit different accent. For some of you, it might be an accent you've heard before, but not all of you. And that accent is from Oklahoma. Woody grew up in Oklahoma in the 1930s, which is when in the United States here we had something called the Great Depression. Some of you may have heard of it. It's really famous. But pretty much during that time, a lot of people lost their jobs and they didn't have a lot of money, and life was really hard for a lot of people. And so the story of this song is about a man named Pretty Boy Floyd, who is considered an outlaw according to the song and according to legend. So I want you to just take a second, pause the video, and think about what do you think an outlaw is, and just write that down. Okay, so some of you might have said something like a criminal or somebody who does something bad, and that is generally considered to be true. Pretty Boy Floyd was a real person. He was a bank robber, somebody who stole money from banks, and he was around during this time of the Great Depression. Excuse me. Sorry about that. He was around during the time of the Great Depression, and he robbed banks then. And so this song by Woody tells the story of his life, how he killed a policeman and then was on the run. But while he did that, Woody talks about how he used the money he stole to do things like pay mortgages. For anybody who doesn't know, a mortgage is a way that people pay for their house. So when you buy a house, you have to pay a mortgage to the bank. And during the Great Depression, when this song was written, a lot of people couldn't afford to pay their mortgages, and so the bank that technically owned their house took it away from them. And he did other things, like it says here, he left a $1,000 bill, which is a lot of money, for the people that he pretended to ask for food from. Or he bought a whole carload of groceries, as it says here, for people who needed it. And Woody's main point of the song here is that, well, Pretty Boy might have been an outlaw, but was he really a bad person because he used the money he stole to, help people, right? Like right here it says, here's a Christmas dinner for the families on relief. On relief means that they needed some form of government assistance. So it's a very interesting song and it has a lot to think about. But beyond the content of the song, like we talked about before, so the way Woody sings indicates that he is from this, this area of the country. And to a lot of people, that made him very relatable. And it made them feel like he was one of them because he sung in the way that a lot of people back then spoke. And because of that, he was able to spread his message to a lot of different people. About the song, you might have noticed that the words rhymed. So, for example, a story I will tell, and then Oklahoma knew him well. When two words like that sound the same, like tell and well, or shore and more, that is called rhyming. And we're going to get to that in a minute. So, there's the lyrics. Hopefully that gave you a little more perspective on them. Just a little bit about Woody Guthrie. I talked to him about a little bit, but he was an American singer and songwriter. He was very influential in the genre of folk music. And like I mentioned, he talked about, social justice issues like the other songs and poems of his we've looked at. He talked about things such as unions, communism in the America, being against fascism and civil rights. And these are all things we can talk about later in later lessons. If you have any questions, or if you have questions, you can feel free to ask me. And he's most known for the song, This Land Is Your Land, which is probably his most popular song. So, for homework, what I want you to do today is listen to the two songs I have linked here, which is Where Is the Love by Black Eyed Peas and What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. And like we did with Woody's song, I want you to look at both the form and the subject matter of the songs. And in the online discussion post I'll have put up, I want you to write 3 sentences about each of the songs. For extra credit, you can also do some research on the background or the inspiration behind each song and write about that too. Okay, so that's our lesson for the day. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.